On India Upfront, viewers, today we begin on a very, very alarming note. Now, viewers, let me tell you, and I'm always upfront with you, all of us Indians, most of us Indians, believe in the sanctity of the Constitution, believe in the rule of law. We believe that if someone transgresses the law, then they should be punished under the law, under the various sections of the IPC. Viewers, Nupur Sharma, if she is found guilty, she can serve up to 3 to 5 years maximum in jail. Those found guilty of supporting her, for instance, will also end up spending between 3 to 5 years in jail maximum. But viewers, that is not indeed the case in our land anymore. The sanctity of the law doesn't matter to some people. I'm going to show you 6 videos tonight. They aren't from Syria or from Afghanistan or any benighted, lawless land that has been overrun by the Taliban or the ISIS or the Al-Qaeda. They aren't from any caliphate where punishments are handed down based on an interpretation of the Islamic law. In fact, viewers, these 6 videos that you're seeing on your screens depict the execution of Umesh in Amravati district of Maharashtra. These videos show that Umesh was executed in ISIS style. He was made to kneel, lower his head. Then his neck was hacked repeatedly by his 3 attackers. They severed his windpipe, his vertebrae, and the ligaments that connect his head to his torso. How it hung on is a miracle. Times Now SIT investigation has accessed these 6 videos that prove that Kole's execution was very well planned to arouse the maximum shock and to set a chilling precedent so that no one ever dared to repeat what he did. And what did he do? He just, viewers, expressed his sympathy for Nupur Sharma in a WhatsApp group. And I'll show you his WhatsApps in just a few moments. He also lauded the leadership of Narendra Modi. But his friend of 16 years, viewers, part of that group ratted him out to some radicalized extremists. Viewers, Kole died face down on the street outside his home, betrayed by his friend. Watch. We put this together for you. Listen.
This is 54-year-old Umesh Kolhe. Headed back home on his scooty, his wife and son follow him on a bike. At this moment, he doesn't know the brutal end his life will come to.
जी सर, उस दिन तो एक कैसा, मैं मेडिकल से निकल रहे थे हम दोनों, मेडिकल शॉप बंद करके जी। एक हमारा टाइम रहता है 10 बजे से 11, साढ़े 10 पौने 11 के बीच हम डेली निकलते, पापा और मैं। उस दिन वैसे ही रेगुलर निकल रहे थे, शायद 10-20 का टाइम होगा, मुझे एकदम टाइम भी रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं है, 10-20 हुआ होगा।
Nearby, Kolhe's killers assemble before the final strike. 2 on a bike while the third walks along. This next CCTV footage shows the assassin waiting to ambush Kolhe, their knives ready to strike.
वहाँ पे 3 जनों ने डायरेक्ट एक चाइना चाकू करके आता है ना, चाइना ये करके
जी,
उससे डायरेक्ट हमला किया है यानी गले के ऊपर.
Even the hazy quality of the CCTV cannot take away from the brutality of the murder. Kolhe is ambushed and made to kneel down, ISIS style. Then they started raining kicks and punches, repeatedly, relentlessly. And then the final stab straight to the neck.
हमला किया और डेथ हो गई. मैं उनका मोबाइल कभी देखता नहीं और उस घटना के बाद तो मोबाइल यानी ये हुआ था. उनका वैसे तो कोई ये नहीं था कि किसी के साथ झगड़ा भी नहीं था, एकदम सीधे साधे, यानी किसी के साथ अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं है.
Umesh Kolhe wasn't just murdered, he was executed. He died face down on the street, nearly beheaded and betrayed by a friend.
Viewers, India is not Myanmar, Afghanistan, Pakistan or Syria or any other failed state because, viewers, there is rule of law here. But despite the intolerance and the abject disregard for the law that is very apparent in these videos, the baleful obscurantists who did this are being provided cover fire. Cover fire, viewers, by certain activists, politicians, parties, and unfortunately, if you are to believe, 117 notables who have written today an open letter, even the Supreme Court. Yes, viewers, so-called secular liberal political parties, activists, commentators, all today are saying that this violence is a result of Nupur, single-handedly a result of Nupur's commentary. As you have seen, viewers, this video suggests that the butchers were radicalized and primed to kill. They were perhaps conditioned to believe that any insult to their religious sentiments must be punished as per a law that we don't subscribe to in this country. Unfortunately, viewers, I'm beginning to get the sense that a lot of people don't actually subscribe to it either. What else explains this rationalization of this barbarism? Times Now has been able to penetrate a WhatsApp chat group called Black Freedom. Kolhe and one of the murder accused are part of the group. It now turns out that Kolhe was killed because he supported Nupur Sharma and even the Prime Minister of the nation, Yusuf, who was part of the group, his friend for 16 years, and who was part of his life, was so upset that he forwarded Kolhe's messages to his killers. Viewers, the extrajudicial killing violates every known ethos enshrined in our constitution. Yes. Sent by Kolhe on Black Freedom Group is this. Let me show you. Those are the WhatsApps. In response to Namaz, Rambaks, read Hanuman Chalisa, he said. Sent by Kolhe again on the Black Freedom Group, he said, I support Nupur Sharma. It's our duty to support Nupur Sharma. Time to support our sister Nupur. 20% shouldn't overpower the 80%. Forward this message and fulfill your duty as a Hindu. What else did he say? Keep the likes coming for Bharat Ka Sher, Modi. That's all it took, viewers, to kill. That's all it took to kill Umesh Kolhe. That's all. Viewers, are we now going to be killed for what we say in our democracy? And to who we say it? despite the fact that there is the rule of law in this country, supposedly. Unfortunately, viewers, the outrage is also selective. You have political parties like the TMC that come out and criticize Nupur Sharma, but their own MP sits in some conclave and goes out to insult Goddess Kali. It takes a few hours before the TMC then suddenly realizes, oh my God, in Bengal, how can you insult Goddess Kali, and they distance themselves. But the same TMC that wants jail for Nupur, that has actually said that she must appear before the police authorities in that state, and a lookout notice has been issued. Have they put out a lookout notice for their own MP? No, viewers, they haven't. They haven't. They agree, however, with the Supreme Court and its observations. Let's open this up. Where does all this take us, viewers? What do we do? Ishkaran Bhandari joins this panel. Ishkaran Bhandari, I want to ask you, in this country, should those who kill others for exercising their freedom of speech, should they be given cover fire in the manner that it has been provided by political parties, the Supreme Court and others? It's a fundamental question to you.
Rahul, the fundamental approaches have not taken. See what happened in Samuel Paty issue. President Macron, who was not a right-winger, a liberal, a leftist, whatever you call him, took a very decisive stand. He said, I'm going to stand with the principle of freedom of speech. He deported some 230 people who had links with certain groups who were promoting the calls for beheading. He arrested many. Then he passed new laws where if a religious place is found indulging in hate speech, you can close the place down. So they took decisive steps. Unfortunately, even this Umesh ji issue has come out in light only recently. Initially, this issue was not even coming out to light as if it was a case which was linked with Nupur Sharma. Then Kanhaiya Lal happened on video where the terrorists proudly said that the reason they did it is X, Y, Z, and after that reason they spoke, did this got linked to it. Otherwise, probably there was no video. That also will not be linked with Nupur Sharma issue. So we are dealing with a situation where be it a law exists or a law doesn't exist. Go to 1920s, Mahashay Rajpal, there was no 295A. The High Court had acquitted him. Still he was butchered. So when people on these streets are willingly butchering and there are intellectual cover fire being given by dog whistles, by painting targets on people's back, by various people promising rewards and saying we will sell our houses to give rewards, then we are into this situation. The only solution is anybody who does dog whistle of violence, promises rewards, be booked under terror law. That's the only solution. That is the only way you have some semblance of free speech which will remain existing in India. Otherwise, we will all lose our free speech.
Okay, that's very, very important. It's a very important point, and I want to go across to the TMC spokesperson, Tausif Ahmed Khan, who has been elevated. Congratulations, first of all, Mr. Khan, for becoming the TMC spokesperson. You served the party very loyally, though you were not part of it. And now, of course, you have been rewarded with a just position. Fair enough. Let me ask you, therefore, in official capacity as a TMC spokesperson, one of your MPs today at some conclave has said, you have the freedom to imagine your goddess. These are her words, not mine. So I want to ask you, and let me ask you this. Should those at the Charlie Hebdo magazine not have also had the freedom to imagine a caricature they drew which proved to be extremely provocative to Muslims? And therefore today, if there are some who stand up, though Hindus will never cross that line, but if there are some who stand up and say we are going to put a bounty on Mahua Moitra's head, will you then, sir, say that Mahua Moitra is to blame?
Rahul, first of all, we must refrain from making a generalized statement and use terms like Hindus and Muslims so frequently, because that is never the case. It is always an individual or a group or some radical people. So we must refrain from doing that.
So who,
Secondly,
let me ask you, one second, very important point, So Mr. Ahmed, who then has beheaded Mr. Kole?
Supreme Court.
And
no,
on
Rahul,
whose behalf were these people?
You have asked your question, Rahul. You must be patient.
No, I'm asking you the follow-up question because you seem to imply that I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not. I also began by saying...
Let me first answer
Mr. Ahmed, I'm not going to... No. Today, I need to step in here because people will say that Tausif Ahmed has pointed out some deficiency and some people will come and chop my head off. I cannot let something that I have not said pass, because today, viewers, it's become very difficult to let anything pass. So I must very quickly.
You can come
Mr.
up
Ahmed,
with a follow-up
I need
question.
to right now, because people like you will say that I didn't correct myself. I'm sorry.
2 minutes of
you
the
are
time
hoist on your own
and
petard.
you did not allow me even 10 seconds.
I have to very quickly say, I began by saying that a few people, a section of a community, I never said the whole community, so no generalizations, please accept that from my side, and you have misquoted me, that's wrong, so I've corrected it, now please continue.
Recently, the country was burning, as noted by the Honorable Supreme Court of India. What did the Supreme Court of India say? And who is trying to give a cover fire to protect whom? That is to be ascertained. The Supreme Court said to the Council of Nupur Sharma that nobody dares to touch you. That shows your clout. There are cases pending against Nupur Sharma. Nupur Sharma is being sent summons from police. Delhi police is not taking any action. Who is protecting her? Is the Delhi police not able to find out the whereabouts of Nupur Sharma? It shows who is giving cover fire to whom. Secondly, Supreme Court said that you are single-handedly responsible for what is happening in the country. Despite that, no action from the Home Ministry, which controls the Delhi police. The point today is inaction of the central government, where on one side they acted against Nupur Sharma, they have suspended her. But on the other hand, they are refusing to arrest a person who have they themselves called culprit. They have accepted that yes, the statements made by Nupur Sharma was disturbing, yet no action. What kind of hypocrisy is this?
Okay.
Would you not talk about that? Do you think that country will run by people who are hypocrites?
You're not answering my question.
And media will not question them.
You're not answering my question.
How long will this go on?
Ahmed Saab, you're not answering my question. You've forgotten the question I asked you.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd asked you the simple, straightforward question. You have condemned Mahua Moitra.
I've given the answer.
The TMC has condemned Mahua Moitra, just like the BJP condemned Nupur Sharma. You're talking about hypocrisy. BJP suspended her. Has Mahua Moitra been suspended?
Nupur Sharma has been suspended. There has been international uproar against Nupur Sharma's statements.
I'm asking
you.
There's
a case pending against Nupur Sharma under sections of IPC.
Have you suspended
Yet
Mahua
no
Moitra?
action.
Or are you telling me that Hindu sensitivities don't matter so much to the TMC? Simple question, because you have come out and said we distance ourselves. Why are you distancing yourself from what Mahua Moitra has said?
A simple answer to that is you bring Mahua Moitra on the show, ask her the questions that you want to ask.
She's your TMC spokesperson.
If you feel that this is a fit case, go and file a case. Like cases have been filed against Nupur Sharma. You are still trying to defend Nupur Sharma.
I'm not defending her.
I don't understand why the media should not question the central government's silence over the arrest of Nupur Sharma.
Mr. Ahmed, I'm only talking about hypocrisy. Now, tell me one thing. You said the Supreme Court had said what it has said. Is the Supreme Court infallible? Can it not make an error of judgment? Simple question to you, Mr. Ahmed.
First of all, you must know that these are the observations not the part of the judgment which is binding.
So I'm asking
this
you,
is a mirror being shown
can an
by
observation
the
not
top
be
judiciary
wrong?
of India.
Can an
This is
observation
a mirror
be
shown
wrong?
to the government.
I'm asking you,
and
can an observation be wrong?
It
Mr. Ahmed, respond to me. Can an observation be wrong?
Of the citizens.
Forget it. I'm asking you a question. Can, Mr. Ahmed, the observations be wrong? Simple, open question. Yes, no.
If you feel these observations are wrong,
you feel,
challenge them.
I'm only asking you.
Unless it
do
is
you
challenged,
think
it
that
is right.
I'm talking now
These
in generalities.
observations are right as long as they are not
Mr.
challenged
Ahmed,
and overturned.
I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not talking about this case. Can any observation by the Supreme Court be wrong? It's a general question. It's an open question
I
to
am
you.
talking about the case.
Okay.
For God's
Now,
sake,
viewers,
do not
listen
go
to
into
this.
generality.
Listen to
This
this.
is what
I'm
I
quoting
told
out
you,
of the
Mr.
Hindu,
Rahul, in the beginning,
16th
that
August.
Please do not generalize.
No, one
let us
second.
be
I am
specific.
now
Talk about
going
the
to
case
quote.
in hand, which is Nupur Sharma. Why
Okay.
is she not arrested
Okay. In
yet?
2012,
Simple
viewers.
question.
In 2012, this is Mamata Banerjee herself. Now you can just see how the TMC spokesman has dodged me. I asked him. I said, if the TMC believes that it needs to distance itself from the remarks of Mahua Moitra, just like the BJP, why hasn't the TMC taken action against Mahua Moitra by suspending her? He says there are no cases against her. Tomorrow, if there are cases, will the TMC suspend Mahua Moitra? We'll have to find out. I doubt it. We'll see. Number two, viewers, I asked him very simply this. If, as Mahua Moitra says, you have the freedom to imagine your goddess, why shouldn't those at Charlie Hebdo also have the freedom to imagine their caricature in a particular way? No answer came on that because he knows he will be in trouble if he endorses what they said or what they did at Charlie Hebdo using their imagination. Again, viewers, two different yardsticks. Three, he says Supreme Court has said it. That is why it must be right. I asked him, can a Supreme Court be wrong? He didn't want to answer in this particular context. He said, I'm only speaking in this context because he knows, viewers, that Mamata Banerjee herself.
Go and read.
Mr. Ahmed, you're going to shout over me. I'm not shouted over you. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to be pulled into a shouting match with you. You're good at that. I'm not very good. So let me come back to the point. He knows, viewers, that even Mamata Banerjee has questioned the judiciary. She said, quote, in 2012, at times favorable verdicts are given in return for money. This is what Mamata Banerjee has said. There are instances when judgments have been purchased. There is corruption among a section of the judiciary. I know there can be a case against me for saying this. But this must be said, and I'm ready to go to jail for saying this. Now, viewers, she said this on the occasion of the West Bengal Assembly's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. She was roundly criticized. So, viewers, here you have a situation where nothing is above question. Except, of course, what Nupur Sharma says. That's hypocrisy. They will never call out the hate that is now visible, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, on our videos. Because it's inconvenient. That means you will have to shift blame away from Nupur Sharma and address the real problem. And what is the real problem, viewers? I am not saying this. Kerala Governor Arif Muhammad Khan has identified it. The mindset, he says, of these Islamists. And where do they pick up this? He says in madrasas. These are his words, not mine. He's a bona fide Muslim. He knows his community. He's not speaking in generalizations. But the moment you begin to fault the mindset, you let Nupur Sharma off the hook. You see, viewers? And then your case implodes. Nupur Sharma, even if she's guilty, will have to serve maximum of 5 years in jail. So would Mr. Kole have served maximum of 5 years in jail, Mr. Iyer. He wouldn't have been hung. He wouldn't have been given the death penalty which he has got, which Nupur Sharma has been now threatened with. So explain, why is there this hypocrisy? And I think you're on mute. Yes, Mr. Mitra. Yeah, there you
Rahul,
are. Yes, I can hear you.
See, the thing here is, even if it had been 5 years for Nupur Sharma and Umesh Kole, we all know what happened to Kamlesh Tiwari. He spent 6 to 9 months in jail, and then he was given an extra constitutional death sentence by certain people. So basically, there is a death sentence on Nupur Sharma's head. Let us be clear about it. And one mischievous fellow painted, deliberately knowing full well what the consequences would be, painted the target on that lady's head. Now, I have supported Mahua Maitra's statement today, just like I supported her statement before. She's a serial offender, if you call it an offense in that sense. I don't. I support Mahua Maitra's right to say what she said today, and I supported her right when she compared the Shivalinga to a nuclear reactor, if you remember that. The problem is, she has been at the forefront herself of calling for Nupur Sharma's arrest. Right?
Yeah.
The TMC itself has been at the forefront. I think your colleague Navika has been served lots of notices as well, and there's a police lookout against her as well.
Yeah, I'm even included in that.
Precisely by the TMC.
Even I am included
Now,
in that. Larger conspiracy, they called it.
Even you are included in
The
that.
West Bengal police
Now,
says. This is not the first
point
one,
of
by the way.
rule
I'm
of
a
law.
serial conspirator in the eyes of the West Bengal police. They've summoned me quite a few times. They want me to be jailed. And they also want Nupur Sharma to show up there.
Happens.
They also want Nupur Sharma to be there when we all know that perhaps for her to travel there could be a life-threatening experience. But they don't mind because it might help them at some level, boost their image.
So we need to be very clear about this, that the rule of law in India has never existed. These kind of mental gymnastics that Tausif had to do right now, this is what every state government in India does. It is also to an extent what the central government also does. Because remember, they themselves throw Nupur under the bus, claiming that what she did was wrong instead of taking a principled stand.
Absolutely.
And this all comes down to the fact that in India, we are not clear about our first principles as a state. We do not look at second and third order effects. We do not look at downstream effects, as opposed to France, which is very, very clear on what constitutes freedom of speech. And mind you, they haven't, it's not just religion. Even in terms of these new madcap religions like gender ideology and things like that, they have taken a very, very firm stand against all of that.
Well, because they didn't have a Nehru, Mr. Iyer, who, in all his wisdom, decided to move the First Amendment. And that too, when he didn't have the right to, because he was not, actually he was an interim government, the head of an interim government, not even elected government, to bring about an amendment to the Constitution and fetter free speech. So we have this conundrum now, where if you speak something that someone else doesn't like, you could be killed for it.
Yes, but to be fair, the French did have their Nehru. He was called Charles de Gaulle, except that he stood tall. He stood feet physically and metaphorically over the leaders of his time, and he was very clear about what he wanted the French Fourth Republic to be, where freedom of speech would be enshrined and protected no matter what the cost.
Exactly.
And mind you, it is not just France. Remember, Denmark, despite all the flag burning and attacks and everything, they protected the right of Jyllands-Posten to publish whatever cartoons they did. The problem here is, Rahul, it doesn't matter just Tausif. Tausif is not the only guilty one here who's playing mental gymnastics. You get any politician from any party here today, BJP, Congress, TMC, DMK, ADMK. They will never emphatically defend freedom of speech in this country because they realize we're a third world country.
Let's ask Lokesh Jindal.
On violence.
Let's ask this question.
On violence.
Of Lokesh
and they do
Jindal.
not want police reforms because they want the ability to constantly abuse the law minus police reforms and minus judicial reforms.
Okay, let me ask Lokesh Jindal. Lokesh Jindal, it's a very simple question. I've shown you these videos. What do these videos tell you? Do they tell you that Nupur sparked this madness? Or do they tell you that there is something very wrong in the way certain people are construing their rights under the law? Very simple. Jindal Saab.
Rahul, when we talk about rights, if we minus the duty component, if we minus the essence within which these rights are to be enjoyed, these become licensed to abuse laws. And secondly, when I'm talking about, in fact, a lot of us have spoken about Supreme Court. Let me tell you, over here, I'm happy that Supreme Court, it has come out as a defender of democracy and the guardian of the Constitution. And democracy in the present context is far more safe and secure with Supreme Court rather than media houses who are out there selling their souls for money. Now, this entire incident that has occurred, it has occurred because there was sensationalization of an event, and that event turned into a disaster. And the government failed outrightly in preventing it, in mitigating it. In fact, there were various laws. There is the IP law, Information Technology Law 2000, whereby the government could have restrained spread of news. There are various laws that are available with the government, but they were never applied to. Because see, in 2014, there was a study report that was submitted by Yale University, which stated that whenever there are riots happening, BJP is benefited with it. There is a 0.8% appreciation in its vote bank. And now the moment the year comes 2022, where there were 8 elections in states, we see that right from December 2021, there are series of riots happening month after month. And who is benefiting from it? We need to think over it. The lives of the people are at stake because of political gain, and we fail to realize that this entire ecosystem that is emerging in the present context, it is dangerous for.
So, Mr. Jindal, you are saying that the reaction to the beheadings, etc., the reaction to the Nupur comments are valid. Is that what you're saying?
What prompted Nupur Sharma to comment in this particular manner?
That doesn't matter. She might be bigoted. She might have been bigoted. But I'm asking you, was the reaction equally bigoted? Yes or no? Jindal Saab, was the reaction equally bigoted? Yes or no?
I told you, Rahul, he'll never answer.
Yeah, he won't answer. I'll tell you now, viewers, what is wrong with what Mr. Jindal is saying. You see, viewers, the Congress has lost not one but 2 prime ministers. And I think Tehseen will bail me out on this. He will perhaps point out to Mr. Jindal where he's going wrong by trying to rationalize this lunatic reaction to what Nupur has said. You see, he says, if you abuse the law, Jindal says if you abuse the law, then sorry, you have to suffer the consequences. That's what he is saying. Because if you abuse the law will be applied to judge you. And what does the law say? That you can go to jail for a maximum of 5 years or 3 years, depending on the context, the exact proof, and so on and so forth. Nupur doesn't deserve to die, Umesh doesn't deserve to die, neither does Kanhaiya, neither does Kishan, neither did Kamlesh. But they have been killed or being threatened with death because the people who are doing it don't believe in the law. They believe in their own version of the law. And that's problematic. Because the Congress should be the last party that should be upholding this action-reaction theory. Then, viewers, Indira Gandhi, who was killed, her killing is to be justified. Rajiv Gandhi, who was blown to smithereens, his death should be justified. After all, they felt very aggrieved. The Sikhs felt aggrieved that Indira Gandhi sent forces into the Golden Temple, which is holy ground for them. So, Tehseen, how does this work? Please explain to me. If Nupur triggered that reaction, then did Indira Gandhi trigger the reaction that ultimately led to rioting, death, and her own assassination? Can you explain? I'm very confused now. Are we going to give license to street veto power?
Namaskar Rahul, thank you so much for having me on the show. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists, to all your viewers, and congratulations to Tausif Ahmed Khan on being appointed as the spokesperson of the TMC. He deserves the promotion. Rahul, to the first part of your question, in our country, in our democracy, from what I know about the Congress, there is no space for violence. Nothing can justify violence. We are a country, we are a democracy, we are not a mobocracy. What Nupur said was hateful, bigoted, deserves the highest condemnation. Law must take its course, but you cannot justify saying Sir Tan Se Juda or Nupur or anyone else will be beheaded.
Why?
If someone's doing that, that needs to be condemned with the strictest action.
Why, Mr. Poonawalla, can't you justify that?
Because if we follow the rule of mobs, then one day the mobs will come after us. This is a country that's run on the constitution. This is not a country, this is not a banana republic. If Nupur has said something wrong, the law will take its course. She will be pronounced guilty and she will serve her time in jail. But you cannot have mobs coming there and delivering vigilante justice, just as you cannot have mobs delivering vigilante justice when, for example, there were accusations of cow smuggling. It cannot be accepted. It does not work in a democracy. Second part to your speech, and I'm grateful that Abhijit is standing up for Mahua Mitra. But look, freedom of speech, and I've always said this, I've said this on your platform, we must err on the side of excess freedom of speech, not on the side of less freedom of speech. But we have to see the intent behind freedom of speech. Is the intent behind a particular post, a particular statement to bring about reform, or is the intent to get cheap publicity, to get social media traction? I think the intent is extremely important. When the intent is just to provoke for the sake of provoking, then I think at that point we need to ask why somebody indulging in this kind of publicity stunts. There's a larger question that I want to raise, and there is freedom of speech only, and we must have freedom of speech for one section. If we're talking about freedom of speech, it must be universally accepted on every religion.
Absolutely.
Or it should not be.
I agree with you. Tehseen Poonawalla, now please tell Mr. Jindal why he's making a mistake by rationalizing the beheadings by simply single-handedly blaming Nupur for them. Where is he going wrong? Can you please respond to him?
Please get your facts correct. You need to
Please put him into window.
Because that is not the. If you can allow me to speak, because that is not the way.
Condemnation.
Mr. Jindal, if I may, the questions asked to me.
Yes, please.
Mr. Jindal,
No,
if I may, Mr. Jindal, I have respect for you. You're the Congress spokesperson. Fair.
So, one second. If he thinks that I'm putting a wrong interpretation, one second, Mr. Poonawalla, just 1 second. Mr. Jindal, who is to blame for the beheadings?
Yes. So when you're telling that this beheading is just because of a fanatic community which is all responsible for extremism and terrorism, that is incorrect. The people who have beheaded Kanhaiya Lal, they are criminals. To the first order, they must be punished. And those who have killed Mr. Kolhe, they must be punished.
I'm asking you, sir, what drove them to take this step? You're again trying to deliberately change the goalpost.
The atmosphere
I'm asking you.
Prompted this action.
Okay, the atmosphere prompted the action. Now, you've heard it very clearly from Mr. Jindal. It was not the mindset of these criminals, but it was the atmosphere. So they got provoked, you see, viewers. They didn't get provoked into invoking the Indian law. They got provoked into taking the law into their own hands. Can you believe this man? And he calls himself a spokesperson of the Congress party. So Tehseen Poonawalla, now he's cleared it up. These people got provoked into taking the law into their own hands, not provoked into going to court. Now, viewers, yesterday, a large number of people were very offended by what a director did by drawing up a poster of Goddess Kali smoking and holding the LGBTQI flag. Now, these people have not issued death threats, to my knowledge, to the filmmaker, even though she's come out and said that the protests were by bigots. So if the protests are by bigots against what she has done, then why aren't the protesters who are reneging against Nupur Sharma also being called bigots? You see, viewers, you see the dichotomy here? Now, Tehseen, can you please explain to Mr. Jindal why people cannot be afford to being provoked into madness or into taking the law into their own hands. What happens if they do so? Because I don't think he gets the point.
Because the moral compass of this country, which is the greatest nation on earth, the freedom that we earned ourselves, the freedom that our founding fathers gave us, Gandhi, Nehru, was based on the struggle of peace, was based on the struggle of not an eye for an eye, because that would make the entire world blind. That is what Nehru said in his great speech, Tryst with Destiny, when he said that our aim is to build, is to fight poverty, disease and ignorance. And when we say that we will get down to vigilante justice, that is ignorance. We're not fighting ignorance. We're going against what Nehru and Gandhi stood for. This country was built on the values, constitutional values of peace, not on the values of we will take revenge.
So, Mr. Jindal, today you have gone against your own history. Though I don't agree with some of the contributions that your party has made to our hallowed institutions and our democracy, but nonetheless, you are today upending the so-called ethos of the Congress. I don't know, Mr. Jindal, and I'm not saying it. Mr. Poonawalla is telling you this. Your own sympathizer, party sympathizer. Can you believe it, viewers?
You would allow me to say my
आपने कितना बोला है, Jindal साहब? The moment you open your mouth, you actually end up scoring own goals. Just like the TMC spokesperson. What can I do?
Interpreting the way that suits your convenience or your propaganda.
But you yourself have said that they were provoked.
If you allow me to speak, I'll at least explain you what I mean to.
Please, sir, go ahead.
When I'm
for the umpteenth time.
When I'm talking about, listen to me. When I'm talking about the objective resolution now, Mr. Poonawalla has already talked about our freedom fighters, and let me tell you, in the objective resolution itself.
Sir, I'm not getting into all of that. Please, now, I'm not going back into your history. Your hallowed history. Please, sir, spare the history lesson. I only asked you a simple question. If you don't have it within you to say that the persons who are doing this are motivated by an obscurantist ideology and a mindset, then, sir, there is no point in having this discussion. Because you need to then, therefore, listen to Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla or argue with him and take this conversation somewhere else. I need to move on, viewers. Enough of this argy-bargy and going around the bush, because, unfortunately, that is what Mr. Jindal wants. He wants to obscure the real issue because he doesn't have the guts. His political party doesn't have the guts to call out what is an absolute wrong, which is a mindset which is medieval, which gets so provoked that they take the law into their own hands. And I'm talking about a group. He wants to create a rationale for that group, give them a face saver. They got provoked, bichare. It doesn't work that way, viewers. We have a constitution, we have law. I can think I've been wronged. I can go to the court. I can't take instant justice. We need to be very careful. And actually, people like Jindal and company are doing a massive disservice to our democracy, viewers, by creating this selective, cherry-picking narrative. Be very, very careful of them. I need to move on.